What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to episode 76 of the Be Grey podcast. On today's episode, you know what we're doing. We're going over week 2 of college football. It was a great weekend of some college football. Look, I told you I needed to do better in my picks this weekend, and boy, did I. We went from 5-5 last week to 8-2 this past weekend, only getting the Baylor SMU game wrong and the Illinois Duke game wrong. And I would argue SMU should have won that game but choked it away. But I'm not too angry about that. Look, I felt like I had a good pulse on the games this weekend. I feel like a lot of them went how I figured they would go. And we'll get into a few of these games for sure. One game that I did not pick that I'm going to save for last because I might go on one heck of a rant. I think we all know what game that is, but we'll get to that last, okay? Let's start with Baylor SMU, a game that I should have picked correctly. I picked SMU to win, and SMU just completely choked it away. Just completely choked it away. They had the lead going in to the fourth quarter, and they just let it slip. They just let it slip. Actually, they had the lead going into the third quarter, but they were up by, I'm trying to remember exactly. They were up by a couple of touchdowns, not much time left in the game, and they just let Baylor score 2 touchdowns, take it into overtime, and SMU chokes the game away in overtime. Sawyer Robertson had a great game, 34 for 50, 440 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Kevin Jennings had a solid day, 16 for 22, 295 yards passing, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Baylor just ended up being the better team in the end. I'm a little bit worried about the Big 12. Utah looks like the front runner. Utah looks like a very good team. Kansas State has been very disappointing so far. We'll get to Arizona State and their game, which was one that was not in my pick'ems. And good thing it wasn't, because I would have definitely picked it wrong. But, it is what it is. I'll probably go to that game here next just to get into more of my point about why the Big 12 might be in trouble. I mean, Baylor is a team who kind of got dominated by Auburn on Friday night last week. 2 weeks ago, whatever. The opening week. And now they're beating SMU. SMU who, they were in the ACC championship game last year. And look, I kind of had a feeling SMU were frauds. I just felt like they were better than Baylor. I didn't like what I saw from Baylor against Auburn, but they came away with the win. And to transition into Mississippi State, Arizona State, I think the Big 12 is in trouble because other than Utah, a lot of these teams just feel kind of mid. They just feel kind of mid. I mean, Arizona State losing to a bottom feeder SEC team is not a good look. And look, I'm happy for Mississippi State, all right? But you lost to a Mississippi State team whose quarterback was Blake Shapen, who did not have a good day. 19 for 33, 279 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks, but 42 QBR. I mean, on the bright side, I think what you have to look at that you like from Blake Shapen is that he didn't turn the ball over. And that's the key. That is why Mississippi State won this football game. Because on the other side, Sam Leavitt, 10 for 22, which is terrible. 82 yards passing, terrible. 1 touchdown, 2 picks, a 34 QBR. The Arizona State simply fell apart. They fell apart. Fluff Bothwell had a solid game along with Devon Booth. But this is an embarrassing loss if you're Arizona State. It really is, because I don't think Mississippi State makes a bowl game this year. I still don't think they will. I think they'll come close, but they're still, to me, probably the worst team in the SEC. They could maybe beat Kentucky. Um, I don't think they would beat Arkansas though, and so it's a rough look. It's a rough look, and Utah feels like the easy front runner here, and maybe Texas Tech as well is kind of looking solid. But we won't really know too much about Texas Tech until we see them play some real opponents. But it's hard for me to look at the Big 12 seriously. Now we go to another out of conference matchup here. Illinois versus Duke. This game frustrated me. I picked Duke to win because I felt as if the hype for Illinois was overblown. I felt like it was unwarranted. And for the start of this game, I looked to be correct. Duke was doing so well at the beginning of this game, and yet they were still losing. I watched the first half of that game, and all I could think to myself is, Duke is losing by 1, but yet they look like the better team. Altmaier was missing wide open passes, and Illinois was just struggling to get down the field unless Duke was being penalized. But Duke just kept on shooting themselves in the foot, and eventually it caught up to them in the second half. And Illinois was able to pull away. But I left that, I'm not going to lie, 45-19, and yet I still don't feel that much better about Illinois. I just look at Duke a little sideways. Like, what are you doing? You let this one get away from you. And Darian Mensah is a very good quarterback. And I know that Duke is better than this. So it's really a shame to see that this game ended up the way it ended up. Iowa State was, man, it was one of the games of all time. Just when you think that Iowa might have found themselves a quarterback, Mark Gronowski, he goes out there 13 for 24, only 83 yards passing, no touchdowns, and an interception with a beautiful 29 QBR. Awful. And the reason I picked Iowa State, because I'm not going to lie, when I first put down this game as one of my picks, I was leaning Iowa. But then I thought about it, and I was like, okay, Iowa State is at home. They have the better quarterback, and they probably at this point have the better head coach. So why really am I picking Iowa? Like, Iowa probably has the better defense, as per usual. But other than that, why am I really leaning Iowa? And so eventually I just was like, there's no reason I should be leaning Iowa. I want to pick Iowa State. And Rocco Becht was the better quarterback, 18 for 27, 134 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no picks, 52.8 QBR. Iowa State did just enough to beat Iowa. And again, I say, though, am I supposed to be impressed with the Big 12? That Iowa State beat a middle-of-the-road Big 10 team in Iowa who hasn't had a functioning offense for how many years now? And Iowa State is, as of right now, also a front runner for the Big 12 championship game along with Utah. And this is supposed a 16-13 win over Iowa is supposed to impress me, because it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Then we had Missouri versus Kansas. This one, I was concerned early. Kansas got out to a 21-6 lead, and I was like, oh no, Missouri is about to completely embarrass the SEC and get blown out by Kansas. But then Missouri started to be the team I knew they could be. And I am telling you now, this Missouri team is dangerous. I didn't like what I saw from the defense, especially early on, but in the second half, they were a lot better once they settled in. They just need to be more consistent. But I got to tell you, the QB that I might be the most impressed by early on this season might be Bo Pribula. 30 for 39, 334 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, this guy, look, I said this last week, and I'm starting to feel a lot more confident about it. I think Penn State kept the worst quarterback out of the two. I think Bo Pribula is better than Drew Aller. 100% I believe that. Drew Aller is completely unimpressive. You know what? No, let me not. Penn State eventually will play a game that anyone cares about. It won't be this weekend because they're playing Villanova, but eventually they will. And I'll rant about him then. But Bo Pribula is looking great. Kansas defense, terrible. Couldn't stop the run. Missouri had 2 running backs go over 100 yards. Jalen Daniels had a fine game. Again, though, threw an interception, and that's a trend, right? The quarterback who didn't turn the ball over usually is going to be the one who won this game. And it's a shame because I thought Jalen Daniels played really well. But Missouri came out with the dub, and that was a big dub needed for the SEC. I might have a rant coming later about Danny Cannell because I think he's a complete clown. But we'll get to him when we get to the most important game to talk about. Vanderbilt versus Virginia Tech. America's team with the legend Diego Pavia at quarterback. Do you know what I like about Vanderbilt? They don't try and be anything but what they are. They know who they are. They know what type of team they are. And that's okay. They don't try and be something that they're not. Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia, they know what type of quarterback he is. So they don't try to make him Peyton Manning. They don't try and make him this pocket passer, accurate quarterback. No, they use him for what he's good at, and that's using his legs. 11 carries for 61 yards. He only had to throw the ball 18 times. He was 12 for 18, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 88 QBR. That is the game plan if you are Vanderbilt. Virginia Tech, Kyron Drones, 17 for 29, 134 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. I mean, Diego Pavia was basically just a better version of Kyron Drones. Unfortunately for Virginia Tech, they decided to play 2 SEC teams back-to-back this year, and it came to cost them. And now they're sitting here 0-2. And ironically, the 2 teams who beat Virginia Tech play each other this weekend. That might be one of the pick'ems, but, I'm not going to spoil anything. I love what Vanderbilt's doing. Vanderbilt actually feels like a game. I can't wait for Vanderbilt to play South Carolina this weekend. I'm so intrigued to see how that goes. I can't wait to see Vanderbilt play Alabama again. See how that goes. But Vanderbilt was impressive. They were impressive. And they're just continuing that momentum that they had last year. Talk about being right about a game. Michigan at Oklahoma. I think John Mateer has the chance to be special. I think Bryce Underwood is not very good, at least as of right now. He just doesn't look like he's that good of a thrower of the football. I mean, 9 for 24, 142 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. John Mateer, 21 for 34, 270 yards. Now, and look, I have been given a lot of these kind of first-time starting quarterbacks this year. I've been giving them a hard time. Bryce Underwood, Arch Manning, even Julian Sayin, I said wasn't impressive in the Texas game, and he wasn't. But here's the thing. That's what happens when you have a national media who hypes these guys up like they're the second coming of Jesus Christ at quarterback. And then they come out here and are 9 for 24. And I'm not interested in hearing the, oh well, you got to give him time. Oh well, it was his first start. Well, then stop acting like he's already great. And that is my point. That is my issue. My issue isn't with Bryce Underwood the player. My issue is with the perception of him. My issue is not with Arch Manning the player. It's with the perception of him. My issue is not with Drew Aller the player. It's with the perception and hype around him. Because we act like some of these players are already great when they're not. When they're just okay right now. And it's okay to admit that. It is okay to admit that Arch Manning is just okay. Okay? There was the viral video going around on social media of Arch Manning. He's back against San Jose State, or I think it was San Jose State. I think it was that game, where he's throwing the ball and he's wincing like his arm hurts. Something's not right with him, and it's okay to admit that. It's okay to admit that Bryce Underwood, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, maybe he will be great, but right now he is bad. It is okay to admit that. And everyone who picked Michigan to win this game is completely blind to reality. And that was a bigger issue. Why were so many people picking Michigan to win this game? For what purpose? Their defense is not as good as it was last year. That is completely evident. Completely evident. And their offense might be slightly better, not by much. And the only reason it's slightly better is not because of Bryce Underwood, it's because of Justice Haynes, because he's a very good running back. Michigan is using Justin Haynes the way Notre Dame should be using Jeremiah Love. 19 carries, not 10. I like this Oklahoma team a lot. And by the way, actually, this is perfect because this is a perfect transition. In my SEC power rankings, I put Oklahoma ahead of a team like Florida. And I saw nobody else do. Well, I might have saw a couple, but most people I saw did not do that. Most people had Florida way ahead of Oklahoma. And this past weekend, it came to bite you. And do you want to know why? And this is the perfect transition. Because you have this belief. You have this belief that Florida is something that they are not. Something that they haven't been in years. They weren't even this in 2020 when they went to the SEC championship game. And what is that? That is a playoff caliber football team. They haven't been that in years. And you thought what? Because Billy Napier ended the season strong last year? Yeah, well, you know why he had to end the season strong last year? Because he started off terrible. Because it started off with them getting annihilated by Miami at home. A Miami team, by the way, who didn't even make the ACC championship last year. We need to stop pretending that Florida is a good football team. We need to stop pretending like Billy Napier is a good coach. I said Billy Napier should have been fired 2 years ago, and he is still here, and he is still doing the same things. He makes offensive play calls that make no sense, and he plays down to competition. And this time, it came to bite him. This time, it came to bite him. Billy Napier should be fired. The only way he should not be fired is if they somehow pull a 9-3 out of this, which I heavily doubt because of the schedule. And speaking of which, where is everyone? Where are all the people who claimed that this Florida team was a playoff team? I saw a Florida podcast say, man, I was saying this season was playoff or bust. Well, spoiler alert, I could have told you before the season started it would have been bust. Have you seen your schedule? I even said, even if Florida was great, it'd be hard for them to make the playoffs with that schedule. And now you've made it even harder because now you've proven you're not a great team and you lost to USF. This was supposed to be the free win before you start the hard stuff, but you've gone ahead and screwed it up. Why was this team ranked 13th? They did nothing to prove it. This team is not better than Oklahoma. DJ Lagway, I think, has potential, but he is constantly injured. He looks unprepared. He had bad decision making. He's not better than John Mateer. And I questioned Florida's weapons. And boy, did that seem to come to pass. I heard all about this. Oh my gosh, they got J. Michael Sturdivant from the transfer portal. Oh yeah, 2 catches for 21 yards. Real stud, huh? I like Jaden Ball. I think he's a solid player. But that's all I think of him. I like Eugene Wilson III. I think he's a really good receiver. And the defense, and again, this is a culture. This is starting to become a culture issue in Gainesville. We saw it when Dan Mullen was head coach, when they were playing LSU in the fog. And what did one of the players decide to do? Pick up a shoe and throw it 50 yards. And then what did we see on Saturday? What did we see? We saw a Florida player spit on a USF player. After we had just seen on Thursday night Jalen Carter get ejected for spitting on Dak, now a Florida player thinks, oh, I have a grand idea. I'm going to spit on this guy, give them a free 15 yards on the most important drive of the game. Late in the fourth quarter. Like, what are we doing? And because of Florida, you allowed Danny Cannell, that fraud, that clown, to go on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it and make a video talking about, oh, I get told that the SEC is hard, but Florida lost to USF at home. I heard it was one of the toughest places to play. While he conveniently ignores the fact that Oklahoma dominated Michigan, Vanderbilt dominated Virginia Tech, Missouri beat Kansas, Mississippi State beat Arizona State, the reigning Big 12 champs. But because you decided Saturday night that you wanted to show just how fraudulent you are, Danny Cannell can go on X and just spout nonsense. And you know what's so funny? You know what's so ironic? What's so ironic is that Florida might have just been beaten by the person that genuinely could become their next head coach. Genuinely. What was his last name? It was like Golish, right? I think his last name was Golish. He could potentially, if USF continues this run and they make the playoff, yeah, there'll be a first round exit, whatever. I could 100% see him becoming Florida's next head coach. And that's just the beautiful irony in all of it. And now You get to play LSU at LSU at night. Good luck with that one. Good luck with that one. Oh, I just needed to get that off my chest. I'm not gonna lie. It feels so good. Like, even though it sounds like I'm angry, trust me, I actually am very happy. I laughed when I saw Florida lose to USF. I laughed out loud, hysterically, because it's so par for the course. And will anyone ever admit that they were wrong about Florida? No, probably not. No one ever does, because we do. This is a cycle with Florida. Every single year, people are like, "Oh, this is the year. This is the year they figure it out," and it never is, because you don't have the right head coach. So you know what? Honestly, I hope Billy towards the end of the season goes on another tear and y'all bring him back for next year, because going into next year you'll have the same thoughts. Oh, this is the year, and you'll get disappointed year after year. Year after year. Florida's in big trouble. Florida is in big trouble if they don't get this figured out. Because guess what? 1, 2, 3. Your next 4 games are all against ranked opponents. 3 of them on the road. You got to go at LSU, at Miami. Those are 2 top 5 ranked teams. Then you get a bye. Then Texas comes to you. They're a top 10 team. Then you got to go to Texas A&M, who is ranked right now at 16th. Good luck with that. Then you'll get Mississippi State, who, trust me, you don't want to play around with them. Then you get a bye. Then you get good old Georgia. Then you get Kentucky, who sucks. But it is at Kentucky. Weirder things have happened. Then you get at Ole Miss, who's ranked 17. And then you get Tennessee at home, who's ranked 15. And then, oh, wait, there's more. To end the season, you get a top 10 ranked Florida State, who I don't think will be ranked top 10 by the time we get there. But still, Florida State is much better than they were last year. Florida could legitimately not make a bowl game in a year where people were predicting them to be a playoff team. Oh, man, it's just too good. It's just too good. Oh, man. I tried to tell you. I said, look, this team I think will be solid. It's not going to be great. What about this team looks great? But no one listens. No one listens. I think Florida has to win. Let's see, if they lost to USF. Let's say they beat Mississippi State and Kentucky. So that's 3 wins. So you have to find 3 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have to find 3 more in these other 8. Like, Florida State is like, what are your best chances? Florida State, probably Ole Miss, and probably Tennessee or Texas A&M, one of those 2. Because here's the thing, I don't think you're beating LSU, and I don't think you're beating Miami. I really don't. Could you beat Miami? Yes, you could, if Mario Cristobal has one of his typical Mario Cristobal choke job games. So you could. And you've seen Carson Beck a lot, so you know him. But the thing is, he's seen you a lot. But you played well against Carson Beck last year. So. And Texas, the Arch Manning thing does worry me. Well, it doesn't worry me. It makes me quite happy. But you get my point. I will be back on Thursday with my week 3 pick'ems. As of right now, what is the overall record? We are 13-7. Last year we finished 84-32. So the goal is to do better than that, obviously. Which I think I'm doing more picks this year than I did last year. So I will definitely have, at least I better have more wins than that, and I might have more losses too, but we'll see. But I went 84-32 last year. I think we can definitely do better than that. I feel good about my picks for this upcoming weekend. Lot of good games. We're starting conference play in a lot of different conferences, specifically the SEC. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I will see you all, or well, I guess I won't see you, but I'll talk to you all on Thursday. Have a great, beautiful Tuesday afternoon, and do not forget to go out there and be great.